If you have ADHD and you have been smoking weed for years, quitting feels like a completely different animal than every quit guide out there describes. The restlessness hits harder. The boredom is almost physically unbearable. And the brain fog after you stop feels so much like your normal ADHD baseline that you genuinely cannot tell where the withdrawal ends and where just being you begins. Here is what I need you to understand first, because it changes everything. That confusion is not weakness, and it is not a sign you are failing. It is the single biggest reason people with ADHD relapse, and the reason is simple. Nobody handed you a map for this specific territory. The standard advice was written for a brain that is not yours. By the end of this video, you will have that map. Why the cannabis and ADHD loop grips so hard. What withdrawal actually feels like when you have ADHD. The specific traps that catch people like you, and how to quit anyway. Start with why the loop forms so fast and digs in so deep. An ADHD brain is chronically understimulated. Your dopamine system does not fire as reliably, which means boredom, frustration, and restlessness are not occasional visitors, they are your default setting. Then you smoke for the first time, and THC drives a flood of dopamine and temporarily fills that exact gap. For a lot of people with ADHD, that first time was not just fun, it felt like relief. Like finally being able to hold one thought without 10 others elbowing for space. That is not an excuse, it is the explanation. Your brain found a chemical shortcut to a state it had always struggled to reach, and over time, that shortcut quietly replaced every other path. So why is the cannabis and ADHD loop so hard to break? Because over time, the shortcut does not just sit alongside your other coping tools, it deletes them. When weed reliably delivers the dopamine hit your brain was starving for, you stop building the slower, harder routes to focus and calm, because why would you when the fast one always works? The habit does not just form, it becomes the foundation everything else rests on. But there is a deeper trap underneath that, and it is the part that blindsides ADHD quitters. With daily use, your natural dopamine system gets even quieter because THC suppresses your endocannabinoid system's own output. Your brain stops producing what it can outsource. So by the time you actually try to quit, you are not just facing normal withdrawal. You are facing years of ADHD symptoms that were chemically masked the whole time, suddenly unmasked all at once. The restlessness, the boredom, the scattered focus, they were never gone, they were muffled. And when the muffling stops, they come roaring back at full volume, often louder than you remember, because you have not felt them undampened in years. That is why this hits ADHD brains so much harder than the guides admit, and why understanding it is half the battle. What does the withdrawal actually feel like when you have ADHD? It comes in two distinct waves. The first 2 weeks are dominated by the physical stuff, disrupted sleep, irritability, appetite changes, but with ADHD, those land harder than standard. The irritability spike tends to be sharper because your emotional regulation was already running thin. The sleep disruption hits worse because ADHD brains often struggle with sleep to begin with, and the brain fog can be genuinely disorienting because you cannot tell if it is the withdrawal or your ADHD resurfacing in full force. Then comes the second wave, roughly week 2 through 4, and this is where the ADHD-specific challenges take over. Tasks that weed used to make manageable suddenly feel overwhelming again. The hyperfocus you used to channel scatters and turns unreliable. The emotional regulation cannabis was quietly handling goes haywire, so you feel everything more intensely and feel less able to sit with any of it. I will not pretend that is easy, because it is not. But here is the crucial part. None of it is permanent, and knowing it is coming is what makes it survivable. The timeline runs a little longer when ADHD is in the picture. Your fog and your focus may take until week 6 to 8 to clearly turn, but the direction is still forward the entire time. You are not regressing, you are recalibrating, just on a slightly longer clock than someone without ADHD. Which specific traps catch ADHD quitters? The biggest one is substitution without awareness. That same dopamine-seeking drive that built the weed habit does not just disappear when you quit, it goes looking for a new target, and it will grab whatever is closest. Sugar, endless screens, impulsive spending, or simply reaching for weed again because the boredom got physically uncomfortable. The drive is not the enemy. Being ambushed by it is. Name it in advance, and you can aim it on purpose instead. The second trap is leaning on willpower in your highest stimulation moments, because ADHD makes impulse control harder exactly when emotions run hot. A stressful workday, an argument, a dead, empty evening with nothing to do. Those are the moments the old habit fires on autopilot, and white-knuckling almost never wins there. Changing your structure and your environment does. So a few concrete moves that genuinely work for ADHD brains. Front-load your day with physical movement, because it is one of the most reliable, natural dopamine drivers there is, and it directly eases ADHD symptoms. Keep your evenings predictable and structured for at least the first month, because empty, unplanned time is your single highest risk zone. Work in short bursts, because an ADHD brain does far better with 20-minute sprints than 3-hour marathons. And if you are diagnosed and currently unmedicated, it is worth asking a doctor whether treating both at once is right for you. How do you quit weed with ADHD and make it stick? Pull it together. Cannabis was doing a real job for your brain chemistry, so quitting is not about ripping it away and gritting your teeth. It is about replacing the function. You have to put something in the gap weed was filling: real stimulation, movement, structure. Otherwise, the dopamine seeking just finds a worse target. The withdrawal hits harder and runs a little longer with ADHD, but it absolutely ends. And on the other side, something surprising happens. Once the weed is gone, your ADHD stops being a thing you are constantly trying to drown out and becomes something you can actually work with. The one thing you cannot use is a plan written for someone else's brain. That is exactly why we built the Cannabis Detox Transformation Program, a structured path through recovery in 3 phases: release, resilience, and clarity, built around replacing the function cannabis was serving, not just removing it. You will find it at quit-smoking-weed.com, and the link is in the description. You can absolutely quit weed with ADHD. You just need a plan that actually accounts for your brain, and then the hard part becomes temporary instead of endless.